Welcome back. This is Mark from financialfreedomandodyssey.com here with another portfolio update. Today we're going to look at portfolio update number 11 for the month of July 2025. Let's dive right in. So over the course of the month, we were essentially up and to the right, bouncing between greed and extreme greed on the fear and greed index, right up until the end where we saw a dip on the last day of the month and the first date of August. One thing that's been shouted out by a couple of financial YouTubers and on MSNBC, I've seen a couple times and that sort of thing, is that although we have been up and to the right heavily, we're still not in what is considered in everything a bull market, and that is illustrated by essentially how poorly, by comparison, that the Dow Jones has performed, and then unfortunately SCHD, one of my holdings here, has performed even worse than the index that it somewhat tracks or is composed out of. So taking a look, S&P 500 up 2.3% over the month, NASDAQ 4.5%, Dow Jones down just under 1%, and TSX 60 up about 1.4%. VDY still slaying the TSX 60. A lot of that is to do with the heavy weighting of TD, which has been on an absolute tear. XAW, anytime XAW for me is over the S&P 500, that's great since it is over 50% S&P 500. I want to say it's like maybe 2/3 S&P 500, I forget. So yeah, SCHD already talked about. It is really struggling. Kind of debating if I should continue to hold it, but I'm going to hold it for now. VTI on pace with the S&P 500, so that is good as well. Diving into the moves that I made over the month, there were a lot. One thing that I kind of talked about doing and thought of it for a while was selling out of TD, so reducing my single stocks. As time kind of goes on, I think I want to diversify for the majority of my portfolio into the indices and then invest in the ones that I believe will rise. I believed TD would outperform for a very long time, starting a few years ago. It struggled. Now it's kind of on the tear. I decided just to exit it. The other one that I exited this month was GDV. So that was my final split share fund that I had in the account outside of, I guess, technically EIT.UN or the Canoe Income Fund. That is a close-end fund, which is kind of like a split share fund. But yeah, on the RSP side, I contributed to the spousal account this month and continued to try to build that out for my partner. So looking into specific moves, so my TFSA, I made quite a few moves. One of them being that I'm gonna stop purchasing my manual drip, as I call it, of the cash ETF, and I'm just going to auto deposit $50 into a regular savings account for now. Main idea is I want to continue pushing my TFSA for maximum growth, and I don't want to use up more room on kind of the safe emergency fund cash, as it is called. What did I buy? So with my dividends across the month, I bought AMD at various intervals. VFV was my main buy and my secondary TFSA. From the sale of GDV, I allocated 40% into AMD, 40% into HXQ, which is just the NASDAQ, and then 20% into Google. And when I sold TD, I decided to up my VFV position. Finally, I think, reaching a point where I have enough US exposure. Not that I'm not going to get more, just I was very heavy into the Canadian stock market, my TFSA, like most Canadians tend to be. So, and then I put 30% into bank, which 1/10 of bank is TD. So, still getting some TD exposure. This is how the breakdown looks on a percentage basis. Still a lot of tickers in there. Might streamline it a little bit more, but I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Just want to call out AMD, Google, and Shopify. So those are my only 3 single stocks that I own now. and the percentages have come up quite a bit, mostly due to Shopify. Sorry, all three of them have risen quite a bit, but especially Shopify and AMD. Google, not so much so far. I will note when I took a screenshot of this and recorded it, this is before the earnings came out. All of them had very good earnings. I'll talk more about that next week. But especially Shopify, where its earnings came out in the morning, and over the course of that day, it went up about 21%, I believe. So the percentages would look a little bit different right now if I was to check them live, but at the time of writing this article, that was not the case. Yeah, so just want to called out again here I had previously said that I had liquidated everything and was only considering maybe GDV and HYLD. Well, like I said earlier, I did sell TD and GDV. HYLD, still on the fence about that one. That one I'm kind of at a net even if you don't consider the dividends, and since it's a dividend payer, I think that's the whole point of those stocks, right? It's covered called with leverage ETF. Yeah, I may choose to liquidate that one and maybe just buy more BFV, but we will see. Looking at the individual TFSAs and then the secondary, which I mentioned, so I did allocate a bunch more to BFV, both with 7% of the sale of the TD shares that I owned, and the other with the normal monthly contributions that I have. RSP breakdown. So this is just my account. Didn't do any changes here, so any percent changes or differences from last month would just be due to the market. I'm also not doing any automated tripping in this one right now, so yeah. In terms of what I bought in the spousal, I just stuck with QQCL and bank, same as always, basically split 50-50 and put in some market orders for that one. Nothing in terms of dividend increases and decreases this month. And the Fear and Greed Index I have here. Oh, looks like that's a broken link. But let's take a look at what it is right now as of August 8th at the time of recording. So I scroll down here. We are back to neutral. About a week ago when I would have originally wrote that article, or blog post rather, we were in we were in greed. I think we were bordering on, like it did drop. So that was right near the end of the month. So yeah, we were extreme greed for a good amount of the month, or flirting with it, right? For the month of July at 74. And if I look at the AAII investor sentiment. All right, so yeah, end of July, I guess right before the dip on July 31st that we had, we were about 40% bullish, which is the highest it's looked in a long time. And then it's wild how much it can swing over the course of just 1 week here, right? All of a sudden we lost 5%. And yeah, that's all for this month, folks. I hope to see you here next week where I do a deeper dive on the earnings for the now only 3 single stocks that I own. Cheers.